Hello, and welcome to Not the Close Enough podcast. I'm Jay, and I'm broadcasting live, recorded from Washington State. Mike is still in Florida, right where I left him, directly in the path of Hurricane Matthew, a storm that is shaping up to be a big fucking deal. I'm recording this at 3:30 on Thursday afternoon, which makes it about 6:30 Mike's time, and they should just be feeling the first effects of Hurricane Matthew. Now, Matthew's looking like a big deal, and we're hearing about it even over here on the West Coast. We're all watching, we're looking at it and going, geez, that looks bad. At work today, a coworker said to me, hey, I bet you're glad you're not in Florida. And no, that's not the case at all. I'm actually kind of upset, kind of embarrassed that I'm not there with you guys, because I understand how fun and terrifying and exciting a hurricane can be. I was there in 2004 when you guys did all four of those hurricanes, four big hurricanes in a span of 5 weeks. That was pretty impressive. Hurricane, was it Charley, Francis, Ivan, Gene? 4 hurricanes right in a row there. So I've been thinking about those all day. I've been thinking about the weather. I've been thinking about the podcast and thinking about Mike because, well, he's going to get soggy. And I thought, you know what? When I get home from work today, I'll just break out the laptop, throw on Audacity, and just knock out a podcast. See if I can still do it. See if it's any good, unscripted, off the cuff, just with minimal editing, and you'll get the dogs and the train and whatever else happens to show up on this mic here. I'm just going to knock it out. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and frankly, I missed you guys. I missed you, our one loyal listener. I miss talking at you. I miss forcing you to listen to my opinions. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't really have anything scripted. I'm going to talk a little bit about the hurricanes that I've been through, and just kind of look at what happens. And if you want to join me on this ride, I will ramble for 10, 15 minutes, which is something I do. And if you're watching in the video, I'm just going to throw up a slideshow of some of the aftermath photos from the 2004 hurricane season. Just something to look at. Some of the memories that I had, because this was the last time we had a big storm like this in Central Florida. It's been 12 years. Some people may not remember. Some people are new to the area. Now, back in 2004, I was working at an apartment complex as a maintenance supervisor, and I oversaw about 247 units. And I remember when Charley started. We spent a week running around, tying everything down, bringing everything we could inside, throwing all the patio furniture in the pool, and just really getting ready for an ass-kicking. No storm had hit Central Florida in a very long time, and we were just expecting the worst. And it was really bad. We had a lot of trees down on property. The power was out. Our property was actually below the level of the sewers. So we had what's called a lift station. That is basically a big pump. All the sewage flows downhill to the lowest point on property and then gets pumped through a pipe back up to the city sewer level. So storm came through, knocked power out. Power was out for about a week. Now, we had water, but we couldn't drain that water to anywhere. So I was actually forced to shut off water to the entire property. Otherwise, all of the sewage would back up and start filling up in other people's apartments. That was the excitement we had with Hurricane Charley, which was a fast-moving windstorm. Charley hit and was gone in a matter of hours. Gene came through a few weeks later and just sat and pissed rain all over us, but Charley was an afternoon. I actually spent Charley hiding under the stairs of my apartment. I was in the living room, but the sliding glass doors started waving. And I thought, it's probably best if I'm not here. And I spent about 4 hours hiding under the stairs, just kind of wondering, what am I going to come out to? Because I lived here. I lived on property. This was my house, but I was also responsible for everybody's house. When the storm finished up, I grabbed a flashlight, I grabbed my rain suit, and I went out to take a look at the property. We had power lines down, we had trees down, and it was rough. There was a ruptured water main. I spent that night trying to get the water back up, and I did get water back to the property. As I've said, we eventually had to turn it off anyway. But the next day was when we really got the first look at it. Yeah, and I was very proud of Florida. I make a lot of jokes about Florida. We on this show make a lot of jokes about Florida and Florida Man and how it's a weird place to live. But the day after the hurricane, you guys were awesome. The power was out. Everybody's meat was going to go bad. And on this little property, this 200 units, they all just kind of got together. Everybody brought out their meat that was in their coolers. And we just had a big old barbecue. Residents were coming out of their house to lend us a hand. We got the tree that was blocking the driveway cleared out. And it was just, everybody was really cool. The intersection of 1792 and 436, which wasn't an overpass at that time, would have been 5 lanes in each direction with no power, no stoplights, no signals. And everybody just said, nah, it's a 4-way stop. And it just worked. And I don't know how that happened. Because when the lights do work, nobody can fucking figure it out. No lights, 4-way stop, everybody's cool. In the aftermath of Charley, I did see a lot of really cool stuff from you guys, and everything was alright. Now, this time in my life, in 2004, after the last hurricane hit, which I believe was Francis, it's hazy now, the 4th one came through, I actually got laid off right before the last hurricane. I lost my job just because I believe they told me they couldn't afford to keep as many people on because they lost so much in the storms. It's bullshit, but low man on the totem pole, whatever. I lost my job, and that's how I ended up moving into the house that I lived in. I rented a room, tiny little room, a little more than a closet, really, but I ended up in this room, and this was fortuitous because a couple of months later, Mike rented a room in this same house, and that is how I met Mike, which, through many years, many stupid stories, got you this podcast. So, we can blame this on a hurricane if you want. This podcast is the aftermath of the 2004 hurricane season. Now, that's sort of my story, my abridged story from 2004. Mike, however, I believe he said on the podcast, hails from Port Charlotte, Florida, which is where Charley made landfall. So Mike had a much more impressive experience. And I recall actually heading down to Port Charlotte, to the Punta Gorda area, about 2 days after Charley hit, with as much canned food and bottled water as I can carry. Because I did have other friends in the area. I didn't know Mike at the time. And I think this was the first time, it's not the first hurricane I've ever lived through. I lived through Hurricane Bob. Anybody remember Hurricane Bob? No? Of course you don't. Bob is unique for being the first hurricane named after a man, and it hit New England, which is pretty uncommon. Usually they hit Florida. If they miss Florida, they hit the Carolinas. But if they miss the Carolinas, they hit Long Island. They do the Sandy thing. Bob was a Category 1, I think. It wasn't even worth talking about. But I went to Punta Gorda, and I saw the aftermath of a hurricane in person. This was the first time I'd ever seen destruction on this level. Now, Charley was big. Charley was Category 3 or 4. It made landfall, and it did a lot of damage and just came right across I-4. I went down there. I helped a friend board up the windows on their house and on their business. And, I spent a few days there, and then I headed home to get ready for the next one. But Mike had to live it, and now Mike's living it again. And there's upsides to the hurricanes. Hurricanes are a unique natural disaster. They're one of the few natural disasters that lets you know about it way ahead of time. Earthquakes just sort of happen. Volcanoes rumble a bit and then they explode. Tornadoes are like, holy shit, here's a tornado, you got 30 seconds to get to the basement, okay, now I'm gone, wee. But hurricanes can stick around for days and just blast you with 150 mile an hour sustained winds for several days. What's nice about this, though, and I'm sure a lot of you are going through it right now, you spent the week, you filled the car up with gas, you taped your windows, you brought everything in, patio furniture's in the pool, all your, you got your coolers, you've taken all of your important documents and put them in the dishwasher. That's right, put them in the dishwasher. Not joking. Makes sense, it's waterproof and it's bolted to the floor. They're going to be safe there. Now the storm started, it's just rolling in. You're all prepared, everything's set, you've done what you can. Now it's time for the hurricane party. Everything's shut down. Nobody's working. The whole state's in a holding pattern. A lot of people have evacuated. People from the coast have moved inland. You're in your house. It's time to hunker down. It's time to break out your battery-powered blenders and get plastered. I actually saw some pictures of stores today. The aisle with all the bottled water's empty. All the canned food's gone. No batteries, no flashlights, nothing. But then you go into the beer aisle. Beer's all gone. The wine's all gone. That's the Florida thing. The hurricane party. And that, I miss that. I miss dicking around during the hurricane. So, you get a crazy weekend. You get a crazy 4-day, 5-day weekend. And it's going to be rough. It's going to be loud. And it's going to be scary for some of you. And there's going to be a lot of damage, and if we're honest, some people will probably die. It's regrettable, but these things happen. But the thing is, people don't usually die during the hurricane. You don't get but 1 or 2 fatalities during the hurricane. What really ends up happening is people die in the following week. The storm's over. The ice pass through, everything's starting to calm down, and they come out to go look, to go see what happened. And they touch a downed powered line and get fried. Or the power's out, but it's still a little drizzly, so they bring their barbecue grill into the living room and die of CO2 poisoning. Hurricanes are more dangerous, I feel, after they've left. Once the storm has passed, you gotta stop and think about everything you're doing, because that's really the dangerous part. And as long as you keep your wits about you, you're gonna be fine, and you're gonna come out with some good stories, probably better stories than I have. And, don't forget to thank the firefighters and the police, the medics, and the linesmen, people that are trying to get power back up. Big storms like this happen. Power companies from Alabama, they come in from Oklahoma. These guys come out here, and they stay here for weeks at a time, working 18-hour days, getting the power grids repaired. And these guys don't ever get any thanks. So, take some time, and, if you see them working, give them a wave. Let them know you're thanking them. Let them know you're thankful. The firefighters and everybody. Again, I don't want to talk myself up too much. But back during Charley, the storm passed. I wandered out. I got to work fixing stuff, and that next week was a big deal as we were trying to clear all the brush and get the place ready for the next hurricane. And like I said, everybody was cool for the most part. But there were some people that complained. When are you going to get my power back up? I don't have any water. This is bullshit. And they don't understand that I don't have any water either. I live there too. So, all these firefighters and these police and everybody who's out there afterwards, all the road crews, everybody who's fixing everything up, don't bitch that they're not doing it fast enough. Because they live here too. They've got to deal with it too. Or in other cases like the linesmen, they're coming from far away to come and help you. Be